We're going to be talking about taxes on tips and how it affects your Social Security and maybe your disability right after this.
I want to be your disability rep.
And we are back. Man, is it hot or is it cold? I can't decide.
It's nice today.
It is nice. It's going to get hotter, I think I saw.
I don't know if you've seen the old radar, but the storms went north and went south of us. They just kind of split us.
Appreciate that. We spent a little time yesterday at Crystal Bridges down in Bentonville.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been down there?
I've not.
It's this. It's a pretty snazzy little art museum down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle of Arkansas and the Ozarks down there. So,
Have you been over to the Walmart Museum ever?
we noted while we were down there that there is a Walmart museum down there, and we were like, we maybe want to go see that someday.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've got some of like the first tennis racket sold and some of that kind of stuff, that's a little sentimental, I suppose. But a lot about, the Walton family, and there's a donation tracker on the back wall that just runs with how much money they've given back to charity. And you'll kind of hate Walmart a little less, I think, if you go to the museum.
It's a wonderful marketing effort. We ate at Crepes Paulette while we were down there, which was pretty snazzy. I had a Rubenesque, they called it, crepe Paulette. It was tasty. It was very filling and all that. Yeah. So as we teased coming into this, the Trump said, "Hey, I'm not going to tax tips," and now 2 weeks later, Kamala's like, "Me too. I'm not going to do that either." It's like, okay, so we have one platform out of her mouth, and it's a copy of Trump's, but that could change the calculus here.
Yeah, it could. And we've talked a little bit before about self-employment and how people oftentimes don't pay into the Social Security system, and so their income's going to look low. And you think about a lot of positions that are tip-centered. A large portion of the overall income from that job comes from the tips.
Yeah.
Especially back in the day when it was $2.35 an hour plus tips, or $2.16 or whatever it was, plus tips. So if we take the tips out of the taxable income, then all of a sudden our earnings pledged to Social Security is considerably less.
Yeah.
And then in the end, of course, so is our payment that comes back out of the disability or the retirement program.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So if we're not getting taxed on tips going forward, what is that going to mean when we...
Well, yeah, when you go to file for Social Security, you're going to end up with a less payment each month. And the interesting thing about this is that, Social Security replaces, they find our average monthly income over our working lifetime, and they replace a percentage of that. That's what Social Security Disability and Social Security in general does too. And so they replace roughly 90% of the first $1,000, $1,200 a month of average income. So if you're a part-time waitress and you take tips out of the taxable income, it may not matter that much because, we're replacing 90% of that first $1,000. But as you get into the higher income brackets, there's going to be less and less money in the pool for you to draw back from.
Yeah, the interesting thing is he said no tax on tips. That doesn't necessarily mean no Social Security.
Interesting, yeah.
Or Medicare or Medicaid, whatever, Medicare out of those checks, because those are three different deductions on the check, on the line item. Check it out. Those are different. So just because you're not going to pay, Kamala, who knows what they're going to do? They may not know what they're going to do. They're just throwing it out there for the political points. But they could say, "Oh, we're not going to do tax, but we're still going to take the Social Security and the Medicare out of the tips."
Yeah, it's always the interesting thing about political campaign promises. Everybody envisions it in their own way as to what it's going to look like, and in the end, it rarely looks like that.
The interesting thing I saw noted about that today is when Kamala said, "Yeah, if I'm elected president, I'll no taxes on tips." And somebody said, "Well, why don't you just do it now?"
Right.
Crickets. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, she's effectively the president right now. I mean, nobody's seen Joe really since he tweeted out that he wasn't going to accept the nomination. So she's the de facto president right now, or we don't have one. I don't know what's going on. It's nuts.
No, you're right. And there was also a comment about lowering prices on day one, retail prices, and it's like,
You
man,
don't control that.
Yeah.
You don't control.
Well, but the thing is, whatever control and leverage you have right now as well.
Well, I mean, we're not a political show, but it's interesting because it's like, hey, lady, you're in charge right now. If you're making these promises, just do it now. You don't have to promise. Just do it. Just show us.
Yeah.
If you can do it, if you're going to do it, just do it.
Yeah. But on the Social Security side, it might have a pretty detrimental effect, depending on how they implement it. I think if they tell people there's going to be no taxes and then they put some 2 of the 3 taxes on it, it's going to sour for a lot of people. Of course, it'll be after the election, and at that point in time, what do you do about it? But right now we have a lot of employers that don't track tips, that don't tax tips already. There's a lot of cash type stuff. Some restaurants, will take all of the tips for the night, put them in a big jar, and then everybody splits them up. Yeah. Other places, it's whatever you report is what your tips actually look like. And so in some respects, it may not change very much for people if they're already just pocketing the cash, but it could be a reduction in income and ultimately a reduction overall. The other side effect of this is that if people's payment amounts from Social Security drop, there's a higher likelihood they're going to draw out of the general welfare pool, out of the SSI program, which is going to be a burden on the taxpayers.
Yeah, you raised an interesting issue right there is that, you may, because I've seen the memes come around, tip your servers in cash so they don't have to take taxes out or all that stuff. But they're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul if they don't take the taxes out because it's going to affect their Social Security.
Yeah. And you're taking that money when you're young at the expense of maybe when you're older. Now, having said all of this, I'm a firm believer that I could do a better job than Social Security can with my money.
100%.
I'd much rather have it myself.
I wouldn't want the federal government
if I had that option. Yeah. But unfortunately, we don't.
No, we do not. But hey, Roy's on the phone today. If you want to talk to him, you can call him. The number's on the screen: 417-812-6. Can't read it.
6698. Yeah.
TV's too far back for me there. 6698. You can zoom in with that QR code. It'll take you to his website.
Yeah. Give me a ring, guys.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
I want to be your disability rep.